party chori hone se bacha lo, because the advice apparently, and Sharad Pawar has just left Matoshree, is what we are being told. Anand Dubey, is the game set and match? Is it lost? Has the kingdom been lost?
गौरव जी, आज चौथा दिन है
जी,
आज का 4th डे है। हम 3 दिन तक बैकफुट पे थे, हम बातचीत करना चाहते थे, हम भावना में थे कि हमारे लोग हमें छोड़कर गए हैं, अगर कोई पद के लालच में गए हैं तो आइए मुख्यमंत्री बन जाइए, पार्टी का सर्वोच्च पद ले लीजिए। लेकिन जब हमने देखा कि ये बातचीत करने के लिए तैयार नहीं है, कोई महाशक्ति है जो इनको मदद कर रही है, ये हमसे 2600 किलोमीटर दूर बैठे हैं, तब हमने अब फ्रंट फुट पे खेलना शुरू किया है। हम अपने लोगों से बातचीत कर रहे हैं, हम अपने शिव सैनिकों से मिल रहे हैं, हम अपने जिला प्रमुखों से बात कर रहे हैं। सब लोग एक ही सुर में कह रहे हैं कि उद्धव ठाकरे जी और आदित्य ठाकरे जी हमारे नेता हैं। ठीक है, विधायक छोड़कर हमें गए हैं, ये अच्छी बात नहीं है, निराशा की बात।
और 16 बचेंगे
गौरव जी, सुनिए, पहले सुनिए
जी।
देखिए, ये पिछले 4 दिन से कह रहे हैं कि हमारे पास 40 हैं, 50 हैं, 60 है, 70 है। मैं एक बात नहीं समझ रहा हूं कि भारत के संविधान में यदि आपकी किसी दुश्मन की सरकार, जो हम इस समय दुश्मन हैं बागियों के, और वो सरकार अल्पमत में आ गई हो और उनके पास पूरी बहुमत हो और 2/3 से ज्यादा मेजोरिटी हो, जिसमें एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ में वो पास हो रहे हो, उसके बाद भी वो दावा न कर रहे हो कि ये सरकार अल्पमत में है, फ्लोर टेस्ट पर आइए, ये बात थोड़ी सी हैरान कर रही है गौरव जी, क्योंकि वक्त पे वक्त बीतता जा रहा है और वो हमें चैलेंज नहीं कर रहे हैं कि
एक सेपरेट ग्रुप के रूप में रिकॉग्निशन माना है। बट वैभव अग्रवाल रिस्पॉन्ड टू द शिव सेना सेइंग दैट इफ द रेबल्स हैव द नंबर्स, व्हाई आर दे नॉट स्टेकिंग क्लेम और सीकिंग अ फ्लोर टेस्ट?
Well, Mr. Dubey, Gaurav has to realize that in politics, it's all about timing. And just because I have the numbers, I shouldn't just go out blazing all guns on everyone else. I mean, we definitely understand politics is all about sitting and playing. Politics is not about, politics is not about going all guns blazing from the top of the roof of the building and saying, hey, I have the numbers and I'm going to shoot you now. That's not the way it works in politics. Politics is all about timing. So you be there at the right time, at the right place, and it's all yours, even if you don't have the numbers. So it's a given. Now we have to understand that Mr. Dubey, I just had a debate with him, and Mr. Dubey doesn't seem to realize that the real fight here is of the ideology, the spiritual ideology behind the spine of the party. The real fight is not any Mahashakti that he calls. And for the sake of Dubey ji, मैं उनकी respect करता हूँ, मेरे से बड़े हैं गौरव, लेकिन हमारी पहले भी डिबेट्स हुई हैं, and I always call a spade if I have to. देखिए, आप पॉलिटिक्स में, राजनीति में कोई भी जगह खाली करेंगे, आप गैप क्रिएट करेंगे, तो कोई दूसरा आके वहां पे कदम तो रखेगा ही रखेगा। इससे कोई इसमें कोई अपने को भागने की जरूरत नहीं।
Rajdeep, what do you make of Deepak Kesarkar saying that Uddhav Thackerat has more faith in the Congress and the NCP, who are actually trying to defeat Shiv Sena leaders in election after election, or not letting them expand their base, than the BJP, who've been their alliance partners with whom they've fought elections?
You know, Gaurav, it appears that Mr. Kesarkar has got wisdom in hindsight. It's not as if this is a sudden revelation for Mr. Kesarkar. When they formed the government in November 2019, the likes of Mr. Kesarkar, Eknath Shinde were firmly behind Uddhav Thackerat and the decision he had taken. They also felt at the time, amongst others, that the Shiv Sena had been humiliated in the manner in which the deal had been done, and the BJP was insisting on the Chief Minister's post. What has changed in these 2.5 years? Few things have changed. Yes, there is little doubt that the NCP in particular has been seen to monopolize certain key resources, particularly in northern and western Maharashtra, where there were a few Shiv Sena MLAs this time in a traditional NCP bastion. And the fear was that the NCP was growing in these areas once again at the expense of the Sena. That is true. But that was something which the Sena had presumably accounted for in November 2019. Then what it wanted was the Chief Minister's chair. So when you wanted the Chief Minister's chair, when you wanted your Bhagwa to fly atop the Mantralay, you struck this deal with NCP Congress and, dare I say, betrayed the BJP. Now, 2.5 years later, the centre has used its machinery to target various Sena ministers. Half a dozen of them have ED and other cases against them. There is fear in the Sena. Many of those who have gone to Guwahati have ED cases against them. What happens now? Their hope is that they will be given a clean sheet or those cases will be kept on hold. Also, what has changed clearly is that Uddhav Thackeray's own leadership is being challenged and questioned, because there's a sense that as Chief Minister, Uddhav Thackeray at times was not the kind of communicative Chief Minister that is needed. When you're running an alliance, you have to accommodate people. Uddhav failed to do that. And yes, therefore, there was a belief that the Congress and NCP, and the NCP in particular, because the Congress also has a grievance that the NCP was monopolizing the resources in Maharashtra. In a way, Sharad Pawar had emerged post-November 2019 as Neta number 1. Now, Devendra Fadnavis has decided that I will do Nahle Pe Dehla. I lost out in November 2019. Now I want to emerge as Neta number 1. And Eknath Shinde has realized that while he is in this Thackeray-led Sena, he can never be Neta number 1. But
because he would end up being Neta number 3 with the focus being on Aditya Thackeray
then. He can at least be a Deputy Chief Minister.
Okay.
Gaurav, may I take an opportunity to add on to it?
Okay,
please?
but I quickly want to bring in Anand Dubey, क्योंकि आनंद दुबे ये शिव सैनिक और जितने शिव सेना के नेताओं से बात कीजिए जो इस समय गुवाहाटी में है, वो ये कह रहे हैं कि एनसीपी को ज्यादा तवज्जो दी जाती थी, उसके बाद तो कांग्रेस को तवज्जो दी जाती थी, अपने ही नेताओं के लिए उद्धव ठाकरे के पास समय नहीं था, मंत्रालय में उनको कोई सम्मान नहीं मिलता था, एनसीपी और कांग्रेस को सब मिलता था, तो उद्धव ठाकरे ने अपनों की अनदेखी की बाहर वालों के जरिए।
ठीक है, सारी बात मानने को हम तैयार हैं। हम में बहुत कमियां रही, हमने 2.5 साल में कोई अच्छा काम नहीं किया, हमने अपने विधायकों का दिल दुखाया, इट्स ओके। लेकिन इसका तरीका क्या है? आप सूरत जाएंगे, सूरत से गुवाहाटी जाएंगे, वहां से बार्गेनिंग करेंगे। आप हमसे नहीं, मुंबई में बात नहीं कर सकते थे? आप यही काम जो वहां से कर रहे हैं,
नहीं तो दीपक केसरकर कह तो रहे हैं कि कितना प्रयास किया।
दीपक केसरकर जी के बारे में बताता हूं। दीपक केसरकर जी को वरिष्ठ नेता है, उनकी जो भावना दुखी है ना, 14 से 19 जब वो मंत्री थे और 19 में जब सरकार बनी वो मंत्री नहीं बन पाए, इसके लिए उनको थोड़ी सी पीड़ा हुई है। अगर वो मंत्री हो जाते तो इस 2.5 साल में एक शब्द भी नहीं कहते, और इस 2.5 साल के बाद आत्मज्ञान हुआ इन नेताओं को कि ये सरकार अच्छा काम नहीं कर रही है, राष्ट्रवादी को तवज्जो दे रही है। जो चिट्ठी आज लिखा गौरव जी, जो चिट्ठी अगर 2 साल पहले लिखी होते तो हम
Has the NCP advised Shiv Sena to throw in the towel, Uddhav Thackeray to throw in the towel because he doesn't have the numbers?
Gaurav, the picture is not very clear yet, but whatever Bombay team is reporting very clearly is that there is an attempt by Mr. Sharad Pawar to ensure that all is not lost. I think that's the kind of advice which is coming his way. See what happens, Gaurav, that once things start moving, there is a momentum. Who has a leverage right now? Say, for example, the latest MLA who has gone there, Yamini Jadhav, somebody from the Shiv Sena, she has an ED case. Her husband has an income tax case. There is a leverage. Mr. Eknath Shinde has larger number of MLAs. He has a leverage. Now, what if they approach the election commission and get recognized as the real Shiv Sena, get the symbol? The momentum would be totally different. The idea of reaching the assembly will come much later, because eventually this issue is going to go to the courts. But what if these groups get legitimacy as the real Shiv Sena? I think Mr. Uddhav Thackeray's last battle now is to save his party through the national executive tomorrow, in which he will have to ensure that the party stays with him, if not the legislators.
Okay. Ratnakar Mahajan, clearly it would appear as of now, whoever is pulling the strings has managed to outsmart not just Uddhav Thackeray, but also Sharad Pawar and the Congress party?
It may not be possible to come at this conclusion because right now the situation is very fluid. There are two important things. One is nobody has from the Eknath Shinde camp has yet said that we have left Shiv Sena. Their claim is we are the real Shiv Sena because
absolutely.
We have
they say they are the real Shiv Sena.
Yes, they are the real Shiv Sena, and they want to inherit the legacy of Bal Thackeray, that of Marathidom and Hinduism. Secondly, the ultimate decision about split in a party is not that easy that it will happen in a week or two, because according to the Anti-Defection Act, the split in the legislative party is not sufficient, but the corresponding split has to happen within the original party as the Act states. The original organization party outside has also to split. Then only the split is legalized. Now, for the party outside the legislature to split, you need an affidavit by 2/3 of its total membership. Suppose if Shiv Sena has 10 lakh members in the state, then they need affidavits addressed to the Election Commission from 2/3 of 10 lakh. And that
clearly isn't happening right now, but Sanjay Jha, the Shiv Sena or the Eknath Shinde Sena alleges that the role of the deputy speaker, two independent MLAs have already moved, have said they have no confidence in the deputy speaker, indicating he's working more as a karyakarta. They expect him to work independently and impartially, and that doesn't seem to be happening. Is that counter pressure being mounted on the deputy speaker, sir?
Gaurav, let me tell you, it is as clear as daylight that if Mr. Eknath Shinde and his team, which is hiding in Guwahati in a 5-star resort and probably having some great buffet meals, if they are confident that they have 38 people or more, what are they waiting for? I mean, they have the support of the BJP. They should just come here under whatever security they can manage and force a floor test. If they have 38, they will be recognized as an independent unit. Thereafter, the battle for the Shiv Sena emblem, etc. can continue. So clearly, there are cracks. You know, Gaurav, let me tell you this, 2 points here. If they had the confidence that none of those, other than the 16 who are getting the disqualification notice, the other 22, trust me, are going to be highly susceptible. Politics is the art of the possible. Please remember this, Gaurav. These are the same 38 people who were there with Uddhav Thackerat till a week ago, right? And then they suddenly decided to abscond with BJP's escort support. Now the question arises, what makes you think they can't do a U-turn? It's as simple as that. And the second point, I've lived in Maharashtra since I was in school, and I have been living here continuously since the last 3.5 decades. Let me tell you this, even if the legislators were to successfully force a 2/3, kind of break of the Shiv Sena, the party is unlikely to move away from the Thackerates. Bala Saheb's legacy
Rajdeep, you concur with that opinion? I know you're on vacation, and I'm sorry I'm coming back to you once again before I let you go. But respond to this. Merit in this contention, yes, 2/3 split may happen in the MLAs. That writing may be on the wall, but not in the party.
2 points, Gaurav. First, to tell you that a number of files are being cleared at double quick time in the last 24 hours. Clear indication that there are many in this government who believe this government is on its way out. And many of these files, I'm told, will eventually be on controversial issues that will be possibly reversed when there is a new government, if there is one. But on your larger point, and I think that's a good question, because the legislature party appears to be heading inevitably for a split, will the Shiv Sena itself split and will the Thackerates lose control of the Sena? My sense is in Mumbai, the Thackerates will continue to call the shots at least till the BMC elections, which are scheduled for October, November. If the Shiv Sena was to lose that, or the Thackere faction of the Shiv Sena was to lose that, and that I believe is the game of Devendra Fadnavis, not just to capture power in Mantralaya, but also capture BMC, which over the last 3 decades has really been the heart, the citadel, the fortress, the cash cow, call it what it will, of the Shiv Sena. So I think that question of whether the Thackerates can control the Shiv Sena could well be answered A, by the BMC election, and B, what we've got to recognize, and I think this is significant. In the last 15 years, the Shiv Sena has spread into rural Maharashtra. A number of its MLAs come now from northern Maharashtra, from western Maharashtra. These were areas where traditionally the Shiv Sena was not a force. The Shiv Sena was a party of Mumbai Konkan. This new Sena, I don't think, has the same affiliation or affection for the Thackerates that perhaps a generation ago the earlier Sena had. Even Eknath Shinde will have an affection for Bala Saheb, but I can tell you there are MLAs in North Maharashtra and Western Maharashtra which will go wherever the wind blows. A number of them have even switched sides and got tickets from the Sena and are first-time MLAs. These first-time MLAs have no great affection for the Sena, nor do their supporters. So I think we've got to recognize that there is a new changing Sena. Sanjay Jha is right that in Mumbai, for example, I do believe that the Thackerats still have an emotional appeal. But outside the Mumbai Konkan belt, huge question mark. And once the BJP tries to capture the BMC, they are also trying to capture the larger Hindutva space. And that was the original plan, Gaurav, of Pramod Mahajan when he had tied up with the Sena.
In fact, that's the point I was coming to. Did Uddhav Thackerat actually compromise on the Hindutva agenda because he was pursuing the common minimum program, and did he then end up shooting himself in the foot, sir?
You know, that, Gaurav, very quickly, this compromise of the Hindutva agenda also is a bit of a red herring. Because I think the Shiv Sena knew what they were getting into in November 2019. He went into this with his eyes open. They wanted the Bhagwa over Mantralaya. They wanted control of Mantralaya. Now, 2.5 years later, the disaffected group are primarily those who want the loaves and fishes of office or are scared of the ED. Please understand, Eknath Shinde's son is a member of parliament. Eknath Shinde controls urban development, which is one of the most prized portfolios in Mumbai. Eknath Shinde did not, his grievances have been exaggerated, Gaurav, at one level. The fact is, most of these MLAs have now skeletons in their cupboard, which the Fadnavis-led BJP is exploiting. It's not as if this is suddenly a discovery of Hindutva. It is personal ambition and personal concerns which have led them to rediscover Hindutva, in my view. Hindutva was always going to be put on the back burner once you tied up with the Congress NCP in November 2019.
You know what happened with the Palghar Sadhus, the manner in which justice, as some Shiv Sainiks say and the BJP says, continues to evade the victims.
The Palghar Sadhu, Gaurav, I am sorry, but Palghar Sadhu sadly was unfortunately completely misinterpreted by the media. It was a crime. But it was not a Hindu-Muslim issue.
No, it wasn't Hindu-Muslim. It wasn't Hindu-Muslim. But Hindu sadhus being lynched and justice not being done with Uddhav Thackerat being Chief Minister was the complaint.
Gaurav, my friend, people were arrested in the Palghar case. You have to recognize that Uddhav Thackerat, yes, you are right, tried to moderate the Shiv Sena away from the strident Hindutva towards a more moderate view without sort of resorting to bulldozer politics. Now, we can debate that separately. There were a section of the Sainiks who felt that this is not the core of the Sena. But my point is, this was something you were buying into when you decided to do this deal in November 2019. Now, 2.5 years later, the likes of Eknath Shinde or Deepak Kesarkar are only waking up because their individual ambitions are being affected. No other reason.
Okay. And what happens next, before I bring in Sanjay Jha? Sanjay Jha, you wanted to come in, but I quickly want to bring in Rahul Srivastav. Rahul, what happens at the National Executive at 1 p.m. tomorrow?
Sort of, I think Mr. Uddhav Thackerat will try to get his flock together. He needs to, like I stated the example of Uttar Pradesh, where Akhilesh Yadav proved that his father was not the party president and he owns the symbol. He got the national convention, the national executive. I think Uddhav Thackerat will try to hang on to that because party nahi chori hone denge. There is a logic that without the Thackerats, the Shiv Sena is slightly a problematic issue, and that is why, Gaurav, I will say that the Hindutva element should not be ignored. What Mr. Eknath Shinde and the BJP in the backdrop are not doing is not going for a kill. They are not wielding the knife. They are not going in for a floor test. It is being played on an ideological template. That ideological template, they want to force Uddhav Thackerat to return to what Eknath Shinde is saying. And that's what the idea is.
Is that even possible at this stage? And I'll come to that question. Rajdeep, you're most welcome to stay on. It's always awesome to have you on the show. But just in case you need to go, many thanks for joining me. The Uddhav Sena Shinde fight. Now, this becomes very interesting. Uddhav Sena versus Shinde Sena fight. It's actually the fight for Bala Sahib's legacy. There is also Raj Thackerat. He's waiting in the wings. This is the third rebellion within the Shiv Sena. Perhaps one of the toughest battles that Uddhav Thackerat is fighting. Who'll win? That remains to be seen.